Stop the press, the Nautilus is dead. This is the new classic. This is the Czapek Antarctique Passage de Drake Viridian Green Fratello Edition, and it is also the most important steel sports watch on the market right now. We've been talking to Czapek for several months about creating a new model together. The flinqué dial, which was different from the original dial of the Terre Adelie, was a thing of beauty, but there was no green option, and more to the point, the beautiful long hour markers from the Terre Adelie had been usurped by shorter, stouter hour markers and a 12 o'clock Arabic numeral, which just didn't have the same beauty to us that the originals did. And so we wanted to fuse the two. We wanted to put them together. We wanted to create something that had never been created before. So we asked the question. The question was easy. The answer was, as it always is in watchmaking, very difficult. This is a completely unique dial format, and it is exclusive to Fratello. There's only going to be 50 pieces of the Viridian Green Fratello edition made, and to be quite frank, I think they will be the most hotly sought after 50 pieces of this watch since the launch of the Antarctique in 2020. Why does it stand out for me? What is it that makes the Antarctique series so incredibly impressive? As I said before, it's because it takes on challenges that other watches seem unwilling or unable to. It stares down those boundaries and it crashes through them with determination and belief in itself and its design. It has elements that are unlike anything we've seen since the 1970s. So the unique dial construction of this watch is one thing, but perhaps the most striking thing, and the thing that will be apparent to anybody you meet while this watch is on your wrist, is the color. Czapek, a brand very well known for its use of color, has not created yet a green dial in the Antarctique series. And here we have one of the strangest and most beguiling and definitely most unknowable colors I've ever seen in the watchmaking industry. However, in regular wear throughout the day, no matter the time or the angle, the light that hits the dial, it changes. It can be a teal, it can be a seafoam green, it can be a dark forest green, it can even be a muddy, almost yellow green in certain lights, especially under artificial lighting. I find myself looking at this watch more often throughout the day than any other watch in my collection, than any other watch I've ever worn, simply because I'm hoping to catch it in that perfect moment. The perfect moment when the light hits the long hour indices and takes the dial to this beautiful teal, seafoam, blue mix. Now what goes with the dial, of course, the hands that sit on top of it. One of those hands, the seconds hand, comes in 3 different variations for this particular model. So you have a choice. You can either have the standard orange tipped hand, or you can have a full orange hand, or you can go for the crisp, clean, plain steel hand. When it comes to successful design, it's all about the details. And this watch, of course, has such a distinct color. Getting those details to match with it perfectly is essential. Right guys, before we dive into the SXH5 movement, there's a couple of things I want to just clarify about how this watch is constructed. So a watch movement is basically made of 3 levels. There's a main plate, that's the bottom layer. There's some wheels that go in between, and the power source, the barrel in most cases, and the timekeeping organ, so that's the balance wheel and the hairspring. And then on top of that, you need to contain all of those wheels and the balance and the barrel with something else. Now, normally we would use bridges. Bridges are top layers like the main plate that have multiple points of affixation. So 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe more screws to hold them in place. The alternative is to use a cock, and a cock is basically the same as a bridge but with a single point of affixation. It has just 1 screw. Most commonly, you will find cocks used when you get to the balance. In old pocket watches, it was really common to have each wheel held in place by an individual cock. So it's much more complex. It does have its benefits. It does also have its drawbacks, especially in those days when manufacturing techniques weren't as refined as they are today. So some of the benefits are that you are able to partially service a watch or partially deconstruct it to focus in on exactly where you might need to pay extra attention if you're a watchmaker. Another benefit, of course, is it's just really nice to look at. So the aesthetics of the SXH5 benefit greatly from this construction. On the back of the watch, you can see that we have the top third of the movement taken up by an overarching barrel bridge. It's gorgeous. In the middle of it you will find a spoked ratchet wheel, but beneath it you will see 3 separate cocks before we reach the balance bridge itself. Those 3 cocks hold the gear train in place, and then they run into the balance wheel and the whole escapement matrix, which is particularly stable thanks to its dual point of affixation. One of the greatest challenges in watch design is doing something new and yet still being able to do it well. Czapek did this with the Antarctique. To do this, they decided to use a case core construction. That means the very central part of this watch is one single solid ring of metal. That gives the watch its internal robustness. It protects the movement from the kind of shocks you could expect it to be subjected to throughout a normal day. Around the outside of the case core is the carrier, or case middle if you prefer. This is what gives the Czapek Antarctique its characterful shape. The bezel is held in place by 4 long screws that extend through the case from behind, and then the case back goes on and clamps the whole thing together, ensuring its water resistance. A screw down crown, which is also engraved with Czapek's secondary logo and the date of Czapek's original foundation, is on the side, and that ensures the water resistance to 120 meters. In addition to this beautiful case, Czapek were very keen to add an integrated bracelet, one of the hardest things to design in watchmaking. Successful integrated bracelet design can be the difference maker. If you get it right, then the bracelet becomes just as important to the watch and its character and its legacy as the watch head itself. Look at the other classic sport steel watches we've already mentioned. The Nautilus, the Royal Oak, the Overseas, they're all the same. The same is true of the Bulgari Octofinissimo and the Moser Streamliner, Czapek's modern competitors. And here we have something very special, unlike anything else that we've seen before. The bracelet interacts with the wearer even more than the watch head does, because it goes all the way around the wrist, not just right on top. So it has to be comfortable, it has to be sympathetically designed to the watch head and to the wrist that it's going to be sitting upon. It also needs to be well finished. That kind of thing is important, imperative in fact, to the comfort of the bracelet. And then, to be unique enough for it to stand the test of time and to stand out in people's minds, well, that is a fusion that is akin to alchemy in this industry and one of the rarest things there is. I've had a great time talking about this watch today. I hope you enjoy wearing it on your wrist as much as I enjoyed designing it with Czapek. We're going to be releasing this exclusively in the Fratello shop on July 8th. There's only going to be 50 pieces available, so if this is the watch for you, you know what to do. Until then, hit the subscribe button and I'll see you next time.